In this episode, we talk about the Gujarat police launching one of their largest surveillance exercises after the Delhi Red Fort blast. We also talk about veteran Bollywood actor Dharmendra's demise and his contributions to Indian cinema. But we begin today by talking about the special intensive revision and the pressure that it has put on the booth level officers. Hi, I am Niharika Nanda, and you are listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. Last month, the Election Commissioner announced a nationwide special intensive revision of the voter lists, which is currently happening in 9 states and 3 union territories. And just as we saw in Bihar, this exercise has come with its own set of hurdles. These include pressures of time, a crunch of manpower, and a lack of awareness on the ground. Now, one of the most important parts of the entire SIR process are the booth-level officers, or BLOs. They are the ones now in charge of getting the crucial enumeration forms filled by people. And it was last week that the Noida administration took serious action, registering FIRs against over 60 BLOs and 7 supervisors across 3 different police stations. The charges are for negligence and disobedience that allegedly took place during the special intensive revision procedure. And at the same time, in Uttar Pradesh's Bahraich, 2 BLOs have been suspended and a third has been booked based on a complaint filed by a local BJP leader. So to understand the reasons behind this, we are joined by the Indian Express's Saman Husain, who has been reporting on this for the paper. Saman, firstly tell us, what exactly does a BLO do? And what are they being required to do for the SIR process?
So, BLOs are essentially local government personnel or people who hold government jobs at the local level who are appointed to work as election commission's field workers. So, these are the people who go from door to verify voter information. Any additions or deletions in the voter rolls are to be verified by these BLOs, for which they have to make door-to-door visits. But during this SIR exercise, which is underway across 9 states and 3 union territories, their role has expanded significantly. They're now distributing and collecting SIR forms, but they're also being asked to match every elector's details with older voter rolls. More specifically, they are required to match the details with the last SIR that had taken place in 2003. So now, instead of just collecting forms, the onus is now on the BLO to check whether someone or their parents or grandparents voted in that constituency earlier and to make corrections or amendments at the enumeration stage itself. This has made the BLO's duty a lot more technical and far more time-consuming than their usual BLO duties were.
And given this, how much pressure are they under right now?
A lot, and you can feel it when you're on ground. So we had visited and spent a day with the BLOs, one BLO in a village and another one who was doing the same exercise for a condo in Noida and Greater Noida. So in villages, BLOs are walking from house to house with handwritten lists. They're trying to locate people at addresses, and many times they're not able to formally locate those addresses. So the problems in upscale societies where we also spent a day with a BLO was that they're dealing with residents who've lived in multiple states. A lot of these residents in Noida's upscale societies are retired government officers, Navy persons, basically people who've only recently started living in Greater Noida. So some of these people had no memory of their 2003 details. Many of them complain that they've shifted so many addresses that their paperwork is kind of tricky to look at this point of time. On top of that, they're basically fielding non-stop calls. They're juggling their school duties. They're racing against a December 4 deadline, which many say will have to be extended since there's a lot of work to do. Many BLOs also told us that they're working late into the night to store and sort these documents. One of them even said that her entire room, like there's a specific room in her house that has been overflowing with forms. And it's basically a very high pressure, high volume workload at this point of time.
And Saman, who are the people who have been appointed as BLOs? And also, are they trained for the work that they've been allotted?
Right. So these are mostly government employees, and a lot of them, they tend to primary schools, teachers at these schools, supervisors who work for these schools, even Anganwadi workers, and sometimes even staff from various government offices. So none of them are specialized election staff. They're education sector or civil employees who have been pulled into election duty. Some of them said that they have no dedicated training to answer a lot of questions that are being posed in front of them. Just a brief orientation in which they were taught on what needs to be done during this exercise. So the expectation to suddenly handle detailed voter verification work and manage hundreds of forms and to even navigate the ECI's online portal. Some Anganwadi workers said that they are not equipped enough to manage the technicalities of the portal or the BLO app on which they have to scan each document and use the app to digitize the documents that they've collected. So they're saying that sometimes the app is not responsive. Some of them don't know how to use tech. So these are the problems that they're essentially facing.
Okay, and we understand that FIRs have been lodged against 60 BLOs in Noida and 7 of their supervisors as well. Tell us what exactly happened there.
So in Noida, the administration says that despite repeated instructions and warnings, a large number of BLOs who had been appointed for these election duties, they simply did not report to their assigned areas, or that they failed to carry out the duties as per the deadlines that had been mentioned to them. So on that basis, the DM ordered FIRs under Section 32 of the Representation of People Act, which deals with the breach of election-related duties. In this matter, basically, there are 4 FIRs that have been filed across 3 police stations in Greater Noida. There is Dadri, Ecotech Phase 1 and Jewar. Some of the names mentioned in this FIR, basically, they include Anganwadi workers, school teachers, and supervisors that had been appointed for the revision exercise. So here the allegation is essentially that there was non-compliance with the orders of the authority.
And Saman, you write that the district magistrate said that strict action has been ordered in line with the Election Commission of India's instructions. So what are these instructions that the Election Commission has given?
So the EC has said that the SIR must be completed in a time-bound and transparent manner. And the instructions emphasize strict adherence to daily reporting for the duties that have been assigned, door-to-door verification that is required for this exercise, and basically error-free matching of voter details. They have to ensure that every eligible voter gets a Form 6 or a Form 8 as required. So in this regard, the district administrations have been told to monitor this closely, and they've been told that any negligence should invite notices, withholding of salaries, or even disciplinary action. So the FIRs that the Noida administration has filed is basically their interpretation of what strict action, quote unquote, should look like.
And in another case, 2 people have been suspended in Bahraich. Has that been for similar reasons?
So my senior colleague Manish Sahu reported on this. The reasons were partly similar in this case as well. So in Bahraich, there were 2 BLOs. Both of them were primary school staff, and they were suspended for allegedly ignoring written notices and repeated phone reminders to report for this SIR duty. So here too, the administration's complaint is of non-attendance and disobedience. But there is a third case in Bahraich that's different. So a BLO named Abhishek Singh has been booked after a BJP leader complained that Singh used objectionable language during a phone call about the SIR forms. So that FIR is not strictly about SIR negligence. It's based on a political complaint or a complaint from a politician in Bahraich.
So now, how do we see these cases going forward?
So for those who have been named in the FIRs, obviously police investigation will now follow. But often these cases don't result in major criminal consequences as such. But the fact that an FIR exists can obviously affect their service records. So for the suspended employees in Bahraich, there will likely be departmental inquiries, and the reinstatement will depend on those inquiries eventually. For the BLO who has been booked after the politicians complain, the case may depend heavily on the call recording and the complaint that has been submitted and the kind of objectionable language that comes up after that call recording is investigated further.
And Saman, given that these are mostly all government employees and school teachers, are civic authorities or local opposition parties making any noise about this?
So right now there's no open criticism for this exercise from members of civic authorities as such. But when it comes to the opposition parties, the conversation has mostly been around the technical difficulties that are being faced during the exercise. So the Congress's MP from Saharanpur, Imran Masood, he's written a detailed letter to the competent authorities in his district, in which he has accused that the forms are not reaching people even almost after a week of when they were supposed to, and that the BLOs are not making enough door-to-door visits. He's also said that the electoral mapping for his constituency has not been done properly, due to which a lot of voters are unable to find their names on the electoral list. Just yesterday, the Congress's UP President Ajay Rai, he visited the family of a BLO in Lucknow who had succumbed due to a brain hemorrhage. So the allegation since the BLO's death has been that he could not take the stress that came due to the BLO job. Meanwhile, from the Samajwadi Party, the party wrote a letter to the CM's office and to the chief electoral authorities, asking them to delay the entire exercise or to extend its deadline by 3 months. Meanwhile, Akhilesh Yadav, he has been alleging that the whole exercise is being carried out to remove around 50,000 voters from constituencies that had voted for the India Alliance during the 2024 Lok Sabha elections.
And next, we turn our attention to Gujarat, where the police have launched one of their largest surveillance exercises in years. In the days following the blast outside Delhi's Red Fort that killed 13 people, security agencies are now expanding their focus far beyond the capital. One of the most significant moves has come from Gujarat, where the state police chief has ordered an intensive 100-hour verification drive targeting individuals linked to anti-national activity over the past 30 years. Since the order, special operation groups have begun ground checks in areas linked to past terror investigations, including the 2008 Ahmedabad bombings and networks associated with SIMI. To know more about the developments taking place on ground, my colleague Ichha Sharma speaks to the Indian Express's Brendan Dabhi.
Brendan, could you start by telling us what all the Gujarat police has been doing as part of this verification drive?
So the Gujarat police on November 17, there was an order by the DGP that went out to all police stations saying that they had to prepare a list of all people involved in anti-national activities. The order went out due to two reasons. The stated reason was that there had been a blast at the Red Fort and there had been 3 people accused in a alleged rise in terror plot that had been caught in Gujarat.
Right, this is where 3 men were arrested for allegedly trying to produce ricin, which is a lethal chemical compound.
Right. So as part of prevention activities, a whole drive had been conducted that had to be completed in 100 hours, where an entire dossier was compiled of all those who had been earlier booked, suspected, acquitted, released, anything in anti-national activities. And the unstated reason is also that this dossier was already compiled last year in August 2024, and it needs to be updated every single year. So this list will have details of everyone accused in such activities from 1995 to 2025.
And also, Brendan, why this specific duration? Why 30 years?
Yes, the 30-year logic is that usually when people start out with these crimes, considering adulthood and all, it's usually the mean age is between 25 and 35 years of age. So if you go back 3 decades, they'll be like 65, 70 years old then. So by that time, their criminal career, so to speak, would have ended. That is why they are going back 30 years.
Right, and Brendan, for those who may not know already, how do the authorities define anti-national activities?
Right. So anti-national activities, specifically, they involve those who had been booked in, the Prevention of Terrorist Activities, those involved in Terrorist and Disruptive Activities Prevention Act, those booked under the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, and they have also added this law that under the Maharashtra Control of Organized Crime Act, which is technically the mother law. It's called the Makoka. It is the law from Maharashtra that was then replicated across the country to deal with organized crime. Today, that same law in Gujarat is called the Gutsi Talk. So, yes, all of these come under anti-national activities.
Right, and as you mentioned, Gujarat's ATS already maintains a state dossier. So can you give us an overview of how significant is this database in size?
Right. So what sources told me is that the database numbers at more than 20,000 people in Gujarat across 34 districts and more than 40%. So account for just the 4 major cities, the highest number being 3,800 in Surat and 2,500 people in Ahmedabad. Yes.
And you also highlight that special operations groups have already begun visiting neighborhoods in Juhapura and Surat. So why these areas?
Right. So it's not these areas specifically, but what happens is that a lot of those people who had been either accused, convicted or acquitted in the bomb blasts earlier, in the 2008 bomb blast and earlier, used to live in Ahmedabad and Surat. So that is why it has been mentioned in the story, but this has been a statewide operation per se. But obviously, and even those people who were previously involved in various gangs and criminal organizations lived in these 2 major cities predominantly.
And Brendan, the Gujarat police has expanded the network to include narcotics and arms cases as well. So why is that?
Right. So while this drive is called an anti-national drive to make the dossier, even those who have a history of dealing in arms, dealing in drugs, dealing in explosives, and have been accused or convicted of crimes regarding to petroleum products and so on are all involved in this, because as one officer very succinctly put it, that the arms dealer at the end of the day doesn't know what the gun is going to be used for, or the drug peddler on the street doesn't know where the money from the drugs are going. They could be used for terror financing. So they want to be sure that they touch on every aspect that could contribute to anti-national activities or activities inimical to the state. So that is why they are even keeping a tabs on those involved in lesser crimes other than those just who are involved in anti-national activities.
And lastly, Brendan, what happens once these dossiers are compiled? Like, how will they be used? And also, who will have access to them?
So, the Gujarat ATS maintains this dossier, the anti-terror squad, and obviously the special operations group in all the cities and districts have their own list. They are supposed to keep these lists and make sure that they can, keep track of who is going where and whether anyone is dead, anyone is alive, anyone has moved to another district, anyone has moved out of state, anyone has moved out of country, which is unlikely in such cases, especially in anti-national activities. But they're supposed to keep track of all these people, and just in case if they are required, if their presence is required, if their statements are required in any cases, in any investigations further on, they should be reachable. So that is the main motive of this entire operation. And obviously, since the Gujarat ATS will maintain this list, it will be accessible to national agencies as well, like the NIA.
And finally, we talk about veteran Bollywood icon Dharmendra, who passed away yesterday at the age of 89. Known as the He-Man of Bollywood, Dharmendra worked in over 300 films during a career that spanned more than 6 decades. A Padma Bhushan awardee, he is remembered not only as one of Hindi cinema's most successful stars, but also as an actor who balanced action, romance, and comedy with remarkable ease. Born Dharmendra Keval Krishna Deol in Ludhiana, he was mesmerized by films as a teenager. His big break came when he won Filmfare's first talent hunt in 1958 and made his debut in the industry 2 years later. His early successes, Shola Aur Shabnam, Unpad, and Bimal Roy's Bandhani established him as a rising star. The landmark war film Hakikat and the smash hit Phool Aur Patthar pushed him firmly into the big league, earning him the action hero image and the nickname He-Man. Interestingly, he also became known for pioneering the shirtless macho persona on screen. Now the late 1960s and 70s were his peak. Hits like Jeevan Mrityu, Mera Gaon Mera Desh, Yadon Ki Baarat, and Sita Aur Geeta cemented his superstardom. Though it was in 1975 that Dharmendra starred in two of his most celebrated films, Rishikesh Mukherjee's comedy classic Chupke Chupke and Ramesh Sippy's Sholay, one of Indian cinema's biggest blockbusters. Though despite constant success, he famously never won a popular film award. What many of his fans would recall is that his on-screen pairing with Hema Malini was hugely popular. Their collaboration eventually turned into a marriage in 1980. Already married to Prakash Kaur, with whom he had 4 children including Sunny and Bobby Deol, the second marriage created a major scandal at the time. Now the 1980s brought a mix of hits and misses as the industry went through major economic challenges. Yet he remained a major draw in action cinema. In the 1990s, with a new generation of stars taking over, his leading man roles were reduced. He shifted to supporting parts and later took a brief break from screen work. However, Dharmendra returned in the 2000s with Apne, Johnny Gaddar and Life in the Metro, winning a new wave of appreciation. In recent years, he appeared in Rocky Aur Rani Ki Prem Kahani, where audiences warmly welcomed him back. His final film, 21, will be released posthumously. You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's episode was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by Ichha Sharma, Shashank Bhargava and me, Niharika Nanda. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Podcast and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.